Okay, we are recording. It is Wednesday, March 26th, 2025. Welcome to the Boulder Arts Commission meeting.
And I'll open the meeting with that. I mean, bang of the gavel. We have some members of the commission, at least Georgia Schmidt is online. Georgia, if you can hear us and you can accept the invitation to be a panelist, then we can see your face. That would be very helpful. We'll go until we're able to do that. We won't take any votes because unless we can see her, that's not gonna allow us to vote. So we'll start going through the agenda on the non-voting items to begin.
We have Georgia.
Yay!
Thank you.
Don't see her.
Probably can't.
Here she is. There we go. Yay!
Thank you.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you, Georgia. All right, so I'll read the land acknowledgement. The city of Boulder acknowledges the city is on the ancestral homelands and unceded territory of indigenous peoples who have traversed, lived in, and stewarded lands in the Boulder Valley since time immemorial. Those indigenous nations include the Apache, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Comanche, Pawnee, Shoshone, Sioux, and Ute. The city of Boulder recognizes that those now living and working on these ancestral lands have a responsibility to acknowledge and address the past and must work to build a more just future. And with that, we'll move to approval of the agenda. Everybody, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I'm gonna call roll real quick. Maria is not here. Cheryl is not here. Jeffrey is not here. Jill? Here. Caroline?
Yes.
Georgia? Online. Galvin?
Yes.
All right, and with that, I will hand over the meeting to the chair of the procedural. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so our first item is the approval of the agenda. If somebody would like to make a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda. Okay, second that.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Great, thank you. And approval of the February 2025 meeting minutes. That was sent out in the manager's package.
Also want to approve that.
Excellent.
And also second that.
Great, I am. Give me just a moment, guys. Sorry, my screen's right down. All in favor? Approved. Great. Thank you. There we go. All right, public participation. Did anybody send that?
Yeah, we have, Mary Martinez, hear us now, see us now. Kind of first, she might not be here yet, I guess.
Do we have anybody else online that's up to?
Well, here's Maria, virtually, I can help her. Is there anyone online who would like to speak? You can raise your hand now.
We'll move past that, and if it shows up in meetings, in a couple minutes, we'll move something around. Yep. Hi, Maria. Maria, we're on commission business right now in the agenda. Does anybody have any commission business? Okay, there's noise coming from outside, so I keep thinking it's you guys online talking. I have some. I did attend the grant committee meeting that was held right before this meeting, and it was they are in the first round of scoring for the general operating grants. And so they have received the feedback for their questions, and are moving on to the second round of giving their scores for that. It was really a great group of very experienced and knowledgeable people. So I'm excited for some of the recommendations they're offering in terms of how we can improve the rubric and the whole system. So very robust conversation, lots of philosophical discussions about many things that I know we've all discussed and thought about, and so we really interesting that these other ones also. So that's going well. Good job, Sarah. Nice. All right, matters from commissioners, liaison updates.
I can share that I checked in with all of my liaison organizations on the federal funding questions. None get specific federal funds, but the Colorado Creative Industries is through NEA. And I guess a recent change is that now organizations can only apply every other year for that one. So that was just like a piece of information that came out.
Yeah, that same one is the one that came up for me as well, yeah.
I heard back from all of my liaisons. Some of them did not have any federal funds, some of them had CCI funds. And then there were a couple that had more direct connections to federal funding, and KNGU gets NEA funds. Third Law is applying for NEA funds for the first time this year. So I forwarded that information to Lauren, and she's compiling that. One thing that I found interesting is KGMU is really listening hard to what was going on in Washington today, because there were congressional hearings on anti-American media and things like public radio and some of their sources of funding are pretty directly under attack right now. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that it goes in some way that isn't just completely helpful. So, yeah. Maria and Georgia, anything from you guys? Here comes Georgia.
I can't remember. Oh, maybe I'll be able to think of it later. Anything that I've gone to, I haven't spoken with any of my groups. I just do want to say that I wish that our grant panel was a lot more diverse. There's only one gender, one race represented there, and I think it's important, and that was kind of the whole point of my suggestion of moving the grants from the commissioners to just to eliminate any unconscious biases. That's it.
That, is that a 1-year assignment, or when is that?
It was supposed to be 2 years, but they signed a 1-year contract at a time.
Thank you, Georgia. Maria, anything from you?
Just as I mentioned last time, just one organization with the NEA grant, and that's my only update this month.
Great. I also had some events that I went to that were really good. There was a meetup with the city council at the bus gallery. And that ended up, there were some illnesses that not everybody could show up, so it ended up being much more of just a networking time. It was really, really nice, and a sweet little gathering of people in the arts. I attended the JCC bias. I'm not getting the full name.
The bias inside us.
Bias Inside Us, thank you. And that was really a cool exhibit, a really fantastic presentation and very interactive, and got the whole audience talking about implicit bias on all sorts of different fronts. And then finally, I attended at the Chamber of Commerce Deb Malden and Michael from Create Boulder and Marie from Local. They did a joint presentation to a group of commercial brokers who, and they were really making the case for them for the empty commercial space here and in other areas in Boulder. And that there are ways to do temporary special use cases to bring in pop-up art spaces. So they were really advocating for some help for the arts community. And beginning the conversation is good. Don't know if how well it landed, but they're continuing to make the case. So it's worth hearing them. You have some stuff coming up from Arts Week, don't you?
Yeah, in fact, several businesses in Transit Junction are working together to have lots of things popping up and going on during the week, and created a map of all of the things happening during that time. But yeah, there's a speed networking for artists event happening at the Junkyard on the 4th. From 4 to 6, that's a collaboration with Big Dream, which is another one of our grantees. And then, yeah, we just have a lot of our like ongoing events that happen, but are gonna, you know, kind of get the full boost of Arts Weeks, our monthly salsa dancing night, our monthly fusion dancing, blues dancing night, and then a theater show happening on the 11th.
And then Lauren's got an update from Cheryl.
Yes, she sends her apologies. She has a family emergency and had to fly out today. But she sent 2 updates, one from Biff and one from the Boulder Ballet. I'm going to read them briefly. I'm skipping them, sorry, because they're quite long, but Biff had more people than I have ever attended in its 21st season, including 68 films from 18 countries, special appearances, 20% increase in their ticket sales, which is remarkable, and 16 sold out screenings. They awarded Entertainer of the Year to actor Jane Lynch, who appeared for an audience of 600 people on March 15th. They honored fashion designer Nicole with the inaugural Catalyst Award, and have just been, I think they totally did that a lot this year. So congratulations to them on an excellent year. From Boulder Ballet, they had a show this weekend, and they're going to be sending around some quotes to the commission. They're doing research in particular with emotional states. I actually went to it, and it's a really interesting research project where they test your emotional state before the performance and then right after it. So I'm really curious to see how it comes out. I've never seen something like that before. Some of their comments rose in some of the feedback rose to the talent and technique and professionalism of the company, which was a reflection of a concerted increase to pay and to attract higher caliber and across a greater variety of dancers. They had 700 applicants for 3 spots in their last hiring. But continued challenges with the cost of living for artists, which comes up very often in the blueprint as well, which we understand. And then they sent some feedback on federal funding, the CCI funding, NEA funding, and we did some research just on what we could find online from IMLS, from NEA, and from NEH. So we have like what is published, a lot of it going to the University of Colorado as well. But if you can send me whenever you hear from your liaison organizations, just so we can track it, because I think it's not showing up what we can get access to online of how it's in many different ways that it's getting into our community, right? And then I'll talk a little bit about ads later.
Georgia, I have a question for you on that. I understand you didn't have feedback from your groups yet. Have you reached out to them, or would it make sense for us to kind of split up your groups and do that ourselves, or? what do
Yeah, you
think
can split up my groups and do it yourself.
Okay, sounds good.
I will send you that.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, commission work items. So this is an opportunity if we have any updates from your small work groups. Feel free to fill us in now.
Okay, I'm just.
Sure.
I don't have a slide for it, but I could just sort of call out top to bottom from last time. So Georgia and Marie and I met on the continued work on supporting tribal nations. If you two would like to speak to that, and then I can talk about the conference.
Go ahead, Georgia. I think you were going to speak to it, unless you want me to jump in.
You can speak to it. That's fine.
I don't have our specific notes, but we had a good meeting, the three of us. Um, Lauren was on her way to a conference that she was going to take some questions to, so maybe she can update us on that in a minute. But our strategy was really to think of, I think, both more immediate goals and long-term goals. I think Georgia was really advocating to get something in action immediately and not go through a lot of ruminations to come up with exactly the right thing. I think I was advocating to be cautious and make sure we engage the right people. So I think we came up with a strategy that really, I think, addresses both the short term and long term. And the long-term goals, maybe Georgia, you could talk about that, the sort of notion of exhibition space. I think you were really advocating hard for that.
Yeah, I was just talking about, because what the land acknowledgement says is it's saying how we took land and just, um, my thought was just that, how do we give it back? And that, what spaces does Arts Commission have to give back? And then putting out an invitation for any other organizations that have space, if they had space that they wanted to give. Um, yeah, kind of like I was comparing it to the venue, um, the venue, Lauren, help me, what is it?
Like the fee waiver program.
Yeah, like how one organization started it and then E-Town did it, and now the other place. I have a really bad cold, so I'm not,
Oh,
brain is
okay.
very foggy.
Oh, Georgia, I have the notes now in front of me. Why don't I go? Do you want me to go ahead and read them?
Sure.
Yeah, so long-term, integrate dedicated support for the Indigenous community within the Boulder Arts Blueprint directly in relation to the land acknowledgement. This could include establishing a grant program, project funding, or collaborating on space for exhibitions and performances. So do you want to add anything to that, Georgia?
I don't think so.
Okay, then short term, we have two items we talked about. Funding for Indigenous artists to present work in conjunction with the land acknowledgement at the beginning of commission meetings. So this could either be showcasing their artwork, a piece of poetry, to be determined. I know I felt strongly that artists should be compensated for that work. Second, short-term, support Boulder County Arts Alliance in relaunching their artist listing with a focus on ensuring Indigenous artists are included and represented. And then Lauren did go to the summit and was gathering some input and feedback on these initiatives. So I think these are open for all of your feedback, and also maybe Lauren, you can share some of the feedback you received from the summit.
Sure. Unless anybody wants to. Actually, I think I'll have ask Sarah if she wants to speak to, because we both went to it, so I want to love your impressions too.
Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts, but if you want to go first, let's go too.
Sure. No, you. It's okay. I think, so I wrote out a couple notes because after a couple days, you know, you get a little, and I think the thing that struck me most is that we've done the training, we've done lots of trainings as a city employee, and we have the training with Phil that was very, historically based. But it was, like intellectually, I understood the things that I'm about to say, but I did not feel it, and I felt it in a way, in a different way. That's a good frame for it. So, working with Indigenous artists is for government is a very delicate balance, right? And it requires respect and trust built over time in a way that I think is a little different than working with other contemporary artists. That I think that was my take from the artists that we spoke to specifically at this event as well. One-off collaborations are often viewed with skepticism, and they, like a sort of helicopter drop in, extract something and go away, instead of an ongoing dedication and long-lasting relationships. And they mentioned like us supporting and attending the Indigenous events that we host already, but then also hosting art markets, hosting like annual programs that are intended to support and give a way for people to make money, right? And it is important that there were, I think, 12 different tribal nations represented at this conference. It was amazing. It was primarily geared towards museum representatives and people with collections, right? A lot of cities have collections, which has its own set of traumatic history. But they were very impressed by the work that the city of Boulder had done. And a lot of our colleagues like Phil that you spoke to and Amy Kane, they were mentioned directly by representatives of being like good longtime collaborators from a city to, these are independent sovereign tribal nations, right? Like you're talking about actual independent nations. They also mentioned Emily at the Museum of Boulder doing really this kind of consistent, solid work. So I think it's worth us, like to what Georgia has mentioned, it's worth us to consider how we continue to work with the representatives that we have here to not break the delicate balance that this relationship has built up over time. It feels very delicate. Did you get that sense too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And otherwise I spoke to artists who are like interested in working with us, but also like hesitant. As soon as I walked up to one artist, they said, oh, City of Boulder, I'm already hesitant because you have your work for government, right? There is an underlying something else that we have to be very respectful with when we're talking with artists from these communities, right?
Yeah, and the fact, I think you mentioned it, that we're a city approaching a nation and that they want us to acknowledge that's not equal footing.
Right. So I appreciate the idea of a long-term continual, but also leaning on our friends and colleagues at the city and in Boulder that are doing this kind of work and seeing how we can like collaborate with them and not necessarily certainly do more, you know, like more promoting to those communities, right? And making the artist list, I think that's a fairly easy one, but like being very deliberate and conscious when we are working with Indigenous communities in a way that feels, it felt different. I don't know. Am I getting there with it? Yeah.
I had a couple takeaways if there's time. So just to note that as of this conference, Creative Nations funding is cut. So their youth programming that they're going to do in the area is no longer being funded, the Creative Nations. They also noted using personnel and bodies that already exist. So if there's already a cultural council to approach them. I was noting that we could add a question for museums who apply to our grant if they've had a tribal historic preservation officer consultation or TIPO, which is now required. So we should probably add that in there, a little checkbox. I certainly think there's, you know, opportunities to get more involved with the Indigenous Peoples Days events that happen here in Boulder. And then the conference was called Beyond the Land Acknowledgement. And I think the main takeaway I got from that is the land acknowledgement is like, this was in the past and they want to say like, we are still here because they are still here in the present. And so thinking of things we can do in the present to highlight that, maybe connecting with the counties and open space projects, just things that are current and happening.
Lots of work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you repeat again?
What you said about Creative Nations?
Yes, they, what the tip said, I think it was from the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. Those TIPOs mentioned that Creative Nations funding is cut. Maybe that'll get contested, but it was canceled here in the Boulder area due to the federal DEI reality that we are in. And so, yeah, there's specific youth programming here in Boulder that's no longer being funded that was awarded previously.
But they still get funded from us, right?
In speaking to the organizations who no longer have funding sources, that's also something to take into account.
What was the source of their funding? I'm sorry, I missed what you said. Was it federal funding?
Yeah, Creative Nations.
But it was NEA, or what kind of grant was it?
I have to look that up. I think it might be through the NEA, but I just wanted to call that out specifically.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get more information, just to add to our discussion on federal funding.
It is NEA.
Thanks. Well, it seems then that we have a more important role to continue to hear multiple voices in our community and lift up multiple voices.
So we're just going through the list that Lauren has. The next group is connecting other funders, grantees, and the arts community. Jill and Georgia.
Yeah. Me, Georgia, and Lauren had a meeting last week. I was checking on some of this stuff, so. One of my goals was to start to compile a more comprehensive list of possible funding sources for arts organizations and cultural organizations, so. I've been working on that and have a draft that I can share with the rest of the commission, or Lauren and I can share with the rest of the commission. Trying to plug in as much information as possible regarding funding ranges and due dates and things like that. Lauren had myself and Georgia reflect on the resources and opportunities that exist on the website, because there are grants listed in here. We kind of made the realization that perhaps resources and opportunities doesn't make it clear enough that these are actual funding sources, because neither Georgia or I really knew how comprehensive the list was. But yeah, we're kind of like, we're noodling on, how we can just make it more, add to it and make it feel more useful for folks, whether that is sectioning it into types of funding sources, if it's arts education versus event funding or something like that. So it makes it just like takes a little bit of that legwork off. Recognizing that, we want to like put it together and update it, or perhaps be mindful of not feeling like we constantly have to update it all the time with the most current information. Yeah, and then another thing that I mentioned that I'd like to maybe get help from the rest of the commission on is thinking about which of either these funding sources or additional foundations. So of course my list doesn't include everything, so I'd like the rest of the commissions to take a look at it and see what else we can add to it, but then where we have contacts, because I feel like having the right person to talk to even connect with before the funding round is open, to understand what that foundation's internal goals and things like that are, is really helpful for folks, but it's not always easy to know who to contact. And then, if we need even more to do, thinking about that in the corporate realm, where we have contacts for the corporations that like to do sponsorships.
Right. Does Georgia want to add anything? I see you're cooking.
I'm making tea. No, Jill did a perfect job. Thank you.
Thank you. I will add that in the committee, there was a lot of talk about organizations really being able to benefit from both connections with other organizations that are that might have, they were talking about smaller groups, like one group may need a bus and the other group has the bus and needs something else. So just strengthening those connections is great. And then that kind of segues into what Jeffrey and I were working on, which is coaching sessions. So another thing that kind of came out of the committee meeting today was the committee members were noting that, particularly in the small groups, in the small organization category, that there was some improvement to be had around organizational and financial literacy. And so, Sarah and I just started spitballing ideas for the, salons, that we do as our council. I'm sure Jeffrey will wanna join the conversation. Sarah had an idea of somebody that is already speaking to arts organizations around corporate governance issues. So she's gonna get some more information there. And then Jeffrey and I are working on putting together a one pager that ideally, I think what our idea, it's still very unclear what our idea is, but I think where we're headed is a one pager that we can give to other commissioners to go through with their liaison groups and just check in on the areas of support, specific support that they need. And who on the commission may be able to have conversations with people. And then connecting youth with art, Cheryl and Yeli.
Yeah. My notes are a little all over the place, but we just have some like good kind of bullet points of directions to go. And first thing is, what's already there. Making a list of what's already, the Boulder Arts, or the youth arts organizations, or YOAB, what is that short for?
Youth advisory.
Youth something.
Advisory.
Yes,
That's it.
advisory board, yeah, that's the
Thank
one, yeah. And then also like places to meet, like Roots Dairy, Junkyard even is a really great place, and then, taking note of like, or not organizations, but like events that already happen that highlight, youth opportunities like Trash Their One Way, and the Boulder Film Association does a lot of youth programming that is really amazing. And then also talking about like mentorship or like apprenticeship, like with places like Groundworks and stuff like that, where people can go in and get their hands on doing the things and learning the things. Or like the makerspace of the library too, like they do screen printing and like 3D printing and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, those are kind of the ideas that we have bulleted out there so far. Yeah, yeah.
So that,
This one.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. The last one was the continued work with the city's legislative liaison. So I reached out and ultimately the city's policy advisor is supporting city council's policy overall to like county, state, federal, back and forth, right? So there isn't a good place for the Arts Commission to like insert into that other than like speaking directly to city council and saying, I think it's important to get this under policy. That being said, the 2025 policy is already present. And I think because of federal changes, he's managing a lot now from legislative perspective. But that being said, I will send out this list because the important thing is that there's information about intergovernmental affairs on the website, and you can look through that, like the city council's goals and policy goals, right? The more interesting, I think, for this commission are the various arts advocacy options that exist both nationally and locally. We have some, we're lucky to have some very good ones. So, excuse me, Colorado Business Committee for the Arts, CBCA, has a cultural champions arm that all they work on is state advocacy. And I'm going to email all of these to you, so you don't have to worry about this, but they just published their new strategic plan, which is very focused on advocacy in the state. And I think it's important to like keep in touch with those, to sign up for their newsletters. There's also Americans for the Arts. They have an advocacy hub that is national, but then they also have the Arts Action Fund. So for example, today they sent an email and said, what do you want us to work on in the upcoming year? Like they work very specifically on a national level, representing all of us out in the country, right? So it's another one I'd recommend looking towards and advocating with. And then we have what used to be West Staff, which is the Creative West. And those coalitions, there are several different ones as the Jeffries described. There are different coalitions around the country of different states that work together. We just have a very big one for some reason, but Creative West also works on sectional advocacy, and it's another really good one for us to stay plugged into to know what's going on. And that's both like connecting with them and seeing what's happening, right? So I'll send out all of these links. I'd really encourage you, if you're interested in advocacy work on a different governmental level, to sign up for these and see what's going on. They also send out just ongoing updates about NEA funding, NEH funding, MLS funding, like those, so you get it to your emails instead of having to go hunt it down, right? To see what kind of changes are happening on a state level.
Great, thank you, thanks. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Brendan. Oh, what did we miss?
The building public trust.
Oh, yes.
That's all I'm saying? Okay.
Oh, it's like-
Wait.
I'm sorry.
It's like,
Go ahead.
okay, good. Again, just like, had a little brainstorming session. And just a few ideas. One being a calendar of, or like schedule
Mm.
perhaps, of all of the granted projects. Would be really nice. And then I think ultimately like the idea that like. Organizations and individuals just wanna feel like their voices are heard and like we have their back, and then. That they can like rely on, us, but also they can rely on themselves and each other as well. About resource list, I feel like that resource list is a part of that. It's like a really nice thing to have on hand. I don't know how like capable this is or how like possible this is. But like a quarterly connective event of some kind, whether that's on a specific topic or just in general. Be really cool. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Georgia has anything else.
Yeah, we had, what was that event? A couple, was it 2 months ago? Where we were connecting, artists were coming together, people who had spaces and people who had art were coming together, to collaborate for, Arts Week.
The artist forums, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Things like that.
Yeah, something, yeah, having something like that, like on a regular basis for artists to get together and support each other and just like navigate what they're doing and how it's going on here. That's, it's coordinating that. And then the point of creating like a calendar of their events, we were, because Yelena and I were saying how like we were reading the grants, but then we didn't know which projects were funded and when they were happening. Like I would like to see, there were so many grants that I read that I would have liked to see um, to attend their events. The events that we fund, I think, would be a great way to support um, our artists. And creating safe spaces for people to share their experience, so that they would be able to come and say what's happening, what they're experiencing without getting any kind of reprimand or punishment from it. Like what I experienced, expressing some concern and then getting beat down by people month after month coming in, just creating a space so that doesn't happen to anyone else, because otherwise people are not going to show up and speak up.
Thank you. Great.
For
Brendan.
example, like when Marty stood up and started shouting at me and pointing his finger at me, like if someone had intervened and like not let that happen.
For, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Brendan.
Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to present two projects. Essentially what you will hopefully be approving are the art selection panels and then recommending that we initiate these projects. City manager. So the first project is Central Avenue Bridge replacement. We will be working with our transportation department to replace a bridge at Central Avenue near 57th Court. It's an office park, but the bridge needs to be replaced. And our opportunities for art, we're thinking of either a mural or mosaic application on the bridge. So our total 1% for art budget, which is all inclusive, is $25,000. This is a CIP capital enhancement, again, through the transportation department. Looking at the budget, our potential for one call will be around $18,000, knowing that we will pay about $1,000 for each proposal, up to 3 proposals. 4 panel stipends for a total of $2,000, and then the cost of posting the call online is $500. We hope to kick off our orientation meeting relatively soon, here in the next month or two. So our community art selection panel, these are our voting members. Cheryl Cardozo is our arts commissioner. Cami Galofre is our artist. Molly Dierks is our arts professional from CU Boulder. Tyler Mais is our community member, and Jennifer Chavez is our community member. So we have 2 community members, arts professional, artist, and arts commissioner. Our technical review committee includes Roger Kane, who's the project manager from transportation, Mark Garcia, who's from planning and development services, and then Amy Beckel and Tony Strain, who are on the design and construction teams. Any questions or comments?
Can you elaborate on the $500 for an online call?
So we use call for entry, and so for each of those calls, it's about $495 to place the call. But of course, to apply, if you're an artist and you apply for the call, it's free.
Oh,
Did you say when the RFP goes out for that?
We don't know that yet, so we have to get through the orientation meeting first, kind of orient the panel, come up with themes, make sure we're locking in whether it's mosaic or mural application with that budget. But hopefully the RFQ will be out this summer, I guess.
great. We've got a proposed motion if someone would like to make a motion.
Sure. I move that the Central Avenue Bridge Public Art Selection Panel and project initiation be recommended to the city manager for approval.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?
Is did Georgia know?
Georgia, are you abstaining?
Oh, no, yeah,
You're in favor?
yes. I just can't
Great.
see myself, so I thought you couldn't see me, so.
So we have a unanimous vote for in favor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next project, this is for Fire Station 2 and 4. So we have 1% funding for the renovation and replacement of Fire Station 2 and 4. Fire Station 2 is at Broadway and Baseline, and Fire Station 4 is on Broadway as you're exiting Boulder, South Boulder. So we have an art selection panel and our technical review committee. We're looking at opportunities for an outdoor sculpture and possible indoor. Our total combined budget for both of these fire stations is $250,000 for public art. Kind of breaking that budget down, we can either do 2 calls for $100,000 each, 1 for each fire station, or 1 call with a $200,000 budget. Again, at the orientation meeting with our panel and technical review committee, we can parse out what that looks like. Personally, I think it's nice to have 2 separate projects, for 1 for each fire station, but I know there has been some interest from the fire station chief and the project manager to maybe combine the budgets for 1 project at the Broadway Baseline location, because it's just a lot more impact and visibility for the people of Boulder. But again, breaking down the proposals, stipends, and the online call, plus the contingency. So hopefully we'll kick this project off in the next month or two with an orientation meeting. Our art selection panel will include Caroline Kirk, who's our arts commissioner, Michael Benjamin, who's a local artist, Crystal Nelson, an arts professional, again from CU Boulder, and then Diana Barani and Shelley Schwartz from our community members. Our technical review committee includes Adam Goldstone, who's our project manager with facilities, Leanna Evanson, a project analyst with facilities, Dan Dillon, who's the fire chief, Mark Garcia with planning and development services, and Jenna Michieli, who's the architect for the project. Questions?
Can you explain, you have a $250,000 budget, but then you're only, are you intentionally only using a portion of it and not all of it?
We are using, well, so I'll go back to that slide. So we have to pay our stipends for our proposals and our stipends for our voting members, plus the call of the online, plus the cost of the online call, and also a little contingency. That all has to come out of the 1%. So the rough estimate right now is that it's like the call itself will be around $200,000 for one project, or 2 calls at $100,000 each. With those other funds going towards contingency, the proposals, the panel stipends. So we'll once we figure out how much we're paying for the proposals, then we can bump that total contract amount up the proposal. Any other questions?
Yeah, Brendan, is it part of all of the budgets to withhold a little bit for maintenance? Just to build that reserve?
That's not in our policy. Is we don't withhold any percentage from our 1% for public art for maintenance. I know some programs around the country do that. We can use maintenance funds either from the general fund or from our 2A funds for maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I was curious, when you're paying for proposals, is that like from the beginning when an artist submits, they're receiving a stipend, or is it once they get into like a second round?
Great question. Yeah, it's the second round. So artists, they don't pay to apply, but they will apply with images of their past work, their resume, and maybe a paragraph about why they're interested in the project. And then from there, the voting members will pick their top 3 to 5 artists to then create a proposal, which takes time and energy, and they create renderings and create a budget and create a narrative and a maintenance plan. So that's all included in that, and that's when we pay those top.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're ready for someone to make a motion.
Move that the fire station 2 and 4 public art selection panel and project initiation be recommended to the city manager.
Someone like to second that?
Second that.
All in favor? We can see you, Georgia. I see your hand up. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving to Sarah.
Grants. So we had community project grant reports from Chelsea Albertson, Empathy Theater Project, Mary Martinez, and Merlin Holmes. As a reminder, you can approve all reports, approve individual reports while submitting specific questions, postpone approval of individual reports pending the answers to specific questions, or not approve. Should this be or, but not ambush? Not approve individual reports and cancel the final payment.
So before somebody makes a motion, does anybody have any of these reports they think to pull out for in-depth conversation? And if not, we can move forward with somebody making a motion, and then we can enter into discussion. Would you like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the grant reports from Chelsea Albertson, Empathy Theater Project, Mary Martinez, and Marilyn Holt.
The second,
And second that,
great, and discussion. Anything that anybody would like to discuss about those? And if not, we can move to a vote. So I'll move to a vote. All in favor? So Georgia, that's unanimous. That's great. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I would like to say just, I was really happy with all the reports, and in particular, it was so nice to see Marilyn Holmes back. And I know the personal impact that subject matter has had on her. And the way that she brought that forward for conversation and visibility within the community was really incredible, and I really appreciated that her project went through the way it did.
second that.
All right, we have 3 GOS recertification reports. As a reminder, East Window and Local Theater Company were both presented at the last meeting, and the commission had questions for those and postponed a vote. And then we received the Big Dream in Winter. Again, you can approve all reports, approve individual reports, approve individual reports while submitting specific questions, postpone approval of individual reports pending the answers to specific questions, or not approve individual reports and cancel the final payment.
Great, so same question, if anybody would like to pull out any of these reports for specific discussion. And if not, I'll invite somebody to make a motion.
I move that we approve the following reports for the 2022-2025 GOS grants, East Window Local Theater Company, and the Big Dream.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, or let's, sorry, some space for discussion if anybody would like to discuss. If not, I'll move to a vote. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. I saw Mary Martinez's hand go up. Is she who was gonna do the public participation?
She is.
Okay.
I'll defer to you as the chair.
Okay, let's finish Sarah's section and then we can have them join us for comments.
I just have one more thing. Boulder Ballet was listed as a large organization. They are actually an extra large organization according to their annual revenue in 2024. And so that did affect the budget we have for new 2025 application. So I just wanted to show an updated budget. So
All right, if Mary was scheduled for public participation, so if she'd like to make some comments now, I'll invite that and have 2 minutes. If you'd like to. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay, I wanted to tell everybody thank you. And in my Lakota language, we would say Wopila. I've seen a lot of healing that the Arts and Commission is able to provide through artwork, and it seems like the Native community really needed it. And I'm very, very, very appreciative of all the work that you guys get done year round to give back to the community, because it's working. And a lot of the women that I'm sewing with have testimonies and stories of their personal growth. So I've had over 20 women give me personal testimonies of how they feel about learning new skills, being proud of themselves, being able to sell items at a local trading post here in Denver that's for Native Americans. So providing development within themselves. It's been an amazing experience for us to learn and grow together. And I just thank you. I appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments and that feedback. We appreciate it. All right, member matters from staff, Cindy and Lauren.
Just me this evening, but Cindy, wanted to send along, on the back of your packet was a big list of how you can get involved in Boulder Arts Week, some things to promote, some events to attend. I'll be sending out pics in an email, if you want to go to anything with me. Remember that we still have a ticket fund, so let me know if you need a ticket for anything. And as part of that, together with the blueprint update is, the consultants are doing all of their investigating now and all of the documents that we send them, so much research. They will likely come back early May. They're working specifically on the grant program, like a super deep dive into the grant program right now, but then also analyzing the 1,177 survey results that we, questionnaire results that we received. And the next step for them is to build something that will be a little bit more in-depth and investigative to go out during Boulder Arts Week. So we'll have 20-25 volunteers out around at Boulder Arts Week doing the next step of engagement on the blueprint, which is super exciting. I think, does anybody have questions about blueprint stuff? You should also be getting an email once a week, our newsletter or my email with,
Well, you're gonna have 25 people like out at events.
yeah,
What are they gonna be saying?
they'll be, well, it's twofold. The first is just helping get people like learn about Boulder Arts Week, give out stickers,
Okay,
you should
okay,
take them,
yeah.
that sort of thing. The other part though is that the CATs, the engagement team, the consultants are building some kind of interactive something that people can give us more feedback now. So
Okay.
they're like doing all of their analysis of the first round of big vision survey. And then the next step is for us to say, okay, so it sounds like you, a lot of people, by the way, for example, are very interested in arts education. So you're right on the right track.
Yeah.
So we need to ask, what do you mean by that specifically,
Yeah.
right? So do you mean after school? Do you mean in school? Do you mean all ages, you know? So helping us narrow down
Okay.
what we should be doing for our new round of community facilities. Yeah.
It's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Any questions? Cool.
Anybody have questions about the manager's memo? I have one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, can you tell us more about this artist, Cal Brackett, and why there's examples of his work?
Yes. So if you saw in the last pages, this is part of a children's book that's being constructed. Excuse me, this is part of our experiments in public arts series that is going specifically with the comprehensive plan. So we had some funding set aside to plug artists into the experiments and plug artists into the comprehensive planning process, right? And that's like Modus Theater did the playback series to talk about what people want to see in their neighborhoods, right? And one step of it is we hired an illustrator with the help of Rachel Kane. This is not me. I have an amazing contractor that's helping on this. Hired an illustrator to help the comprehensive plan do some drawings, and these will be like printed large style at different events. They'll be made into a children's book. It's different ways of helping explain these very big and complex topics, right? Housing and livability and safety. And I mean, they're so big and complex that illustrating them helps us all visualize them, right? We just closed a call for the next Experiments in Public Art round, which will be in association with the community assemblies. So there'll be an artist that's attending the community assemblies and then making some piece of work that explains what that process is like. There'll be another call that comes out soon that's going to be more of an interactive, you know, like pulling in for information from the public and then also explaining it out. So it's been very exciting. I think it's kind of a unique way for planners to go, but they've been really supportive of our work and like using different venues to help people engage with and understand these like gigantic topics, right? Thank you. I love it. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Manager's memo? No. All right. Okay, this is Georgia's final meeting, so we want to send her off with all our good wishes and Lauren, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, I will defer to the commissioners first, and I do have a gift for you. It's actually in a bag right next to me, so I'll have to arrange to give it to you. A gift from the staff and from your fellow commissioners, and from me, something that was not purchased with city money. I'll just say that. Okay, whenever you get it. Yeah, but I'll defer to my commissioners before I say something.
Georgia, I just want to thank you for your perspective on the commission. I know that your voice will be in my ear for years, and the perspective that you bring and the ways that you've asked for us to show up and to listen and to make space. And I know it hasn't been easy for you, and I appreciate your bravery in bringing these topics forward. And for me personally, it has had a huge impact on how I view this work and the questions I'll be answering. So I really appreciate you, and I wish you luck in your next endeavors.
Thank you, Caroline. I still have your drawing of me on my refrigerator.
Love it.
Brings a
That's-
smile to me every time.
Yeah, I still have mine that you need to. Yeah.
Oh,
the blind
gosh.
drawings.
Well, it's funny how I feel like it actually looks like me. Hold on.
Yeah, and you're side by side
Yeah.
comparison.
Can you see it?
Oh my gosh.
So good.
With the glasses?
You don't have any.
Yeah.
Lots of whiskey, I don't know.
So good.
Yeah. So yeah, the floor is open if anybody else would like to say anything, and I know Lauren has some words to say as well.
I'll say that I'm grateful that I got to serve on the commission with you for at least a year, and I feel like I learned a lot in this first year. And it's definitely going to play a role in how I analyze and think through the ways in which we as a commission can show up for the city and the artists and people of color. So yeah, thank you for all of your contributions.
Thank you. And hopefully, you guys will all be an advocate, not just for people of color, but people with different abilities and all of the people who have a tendency to be marginalized in our community and unheard and unseen. Who is this person next to you, Jill?
Well, Laura Aldridge is our new contractor who will be helping with our accessible signage implementation. And then this is Jake, who's the public art program coordinator. So big thank you to both of them for helping me manage this program.
Okay, sorry. I just went over there and I was like, who is that?
It's just staff, Georgia.
Well, Georgia, I think I agree with everything that's been said so far. I'm just hoping that you continue on with the work items as we talked about when you and I and Lauren met. So I hope you continue as a community member and a former commission member. So you continue to lend your voice to those initiatives.
Okay.
He's smiling.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I got to work with you for 3 years. It was amazing, and you're like no nonsense, like take no shit mentality and viewpoint is extremely valuable, and I hope we can all take some of that in as well. But I'll see you around though.
Yeah, hopefully.
Lauren?
Yeah, and I was gonna see if Matt wanted to say anything too, because it's been 5 years, which is remarkable. I wrote something because I'm not as eloquent as all of you. It's brief though. Oh, here's Matt though.
Yeah, Matt, go
Matt
ahead.
Shazansky.
Georgia, a couple of things. Thank you for Lauren for allowing me to do this, but I've just wanted to say that I appreciate your wisdom and leadership through all these years, and especially I've learned so much from you. And so this has been a really valuable time. And thank you so much for showing up for this community. And there's also something sort of poetically tragic about the fact that your first meeting was during the pandemic on Zoom when we were trying to figure out all that, and your last meeting is with you sick on Zoom, and it's just wonderful and sad and somehow a weird bookend to this. But you have seen us through some extraordinary times and extraordinary conversations. So thank you so much for everything you've done to advance this group, and look forward to you being out in the community and continuing your leadership.
Thank you.
Uh, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank you so much, Georgia, for your service on the Arts Commission. As you all know, serving on this commission it requires a very deep commitment and hours and hours and hours of personal time and a strong belief in the value of the arts. I have learned from you because you have brought passion and conviction to your role, and you've approached your service with the dedication of a true artist, someone who understands the power of creative expression and the responsibility of shaping how the arts are supported in our community. Thank you for your time and your energy and your passion. And I know that you will continue to bring artistry to stages and studios and classrooms in Boulder and beyond. And I also know that you'll remain a strong advocate for the arts, and that's something that we always need. I look forward to seeing you out in the community.
Phew.
I agree.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. It's been a really, I was reflecting this week, on my whole experience, how we were online for so long, how, I mean, I think, was it a year that we were online before I saw anybody's actual face?
I think it was more
Yeah.
than.
I think so too. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just been such an interesting experience to get to know people in a little screen and then see their actual face, like all the sides of it. And I've learned so much. Um, it's been a really special experience, and I can't believe it's come to an end. I remember when I first got on and like our first meeting, and I was reading through something and it said that the timeline was 5 years. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I didn't know that. I'm like, how did I miss that? I'm like, 5 years, that's forever. Because the Arts Commission in Encinitas is 2 years. So I thought it was another 2 year stint, but and I was like, how am I gonna 5 years? I don't know. Anyway, so it's incredible that it's come to an end, and I've had such a good time meeting every single person on the commission. Um, I love meeting people that I would not normally have access to. It really broadens my horizon, and um, I'm just thankful for each and every one of you.
I know we all hope you feel better, and we hope to see you out at arts events. And Lauren, how can she pick up her gifts?
I will organize it with you.
I want to know what they are.
I will show you. It's a box.
In a bag.
And a bag.
Boulder Arts Week bag.
Oh, good, good. I was missing a box around the house. I was just thinking like, God, I need another box.
The mantle back
Just
there,
around
yeah.
here, yeah.
All right, this brings us to the end of our agenda, so I'm going to call close our meeting. Goodbye to everybody online. I hope you feel better, Georgia.
Thank you.
I feel better.
It's a whole thing.